Never miss an episode of the Final Furlong podcast. Subscribe now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Emmet Kennedy.
Welcome back to a special edition of the Final Furlong podcast. Delighted to say that for the first time in 2026, we're rejoined by Paul Ferguson, author of excellent Jumpers to Follow, but also, and almost more importantly, the outstanding Weatherbys Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide. The guide when it comes to Cheltenham. And the man who's been quietly putting it all together, working like an absolute maniac, but somehow remaining sane. It's Paul Ferguson. You're welcome back to the show, Paul.
Hi, Emma. Good to see you. I think it's the first time since the season got underway, isn't it? So it's got round to that time of year again already.
I was just saying, how long is it taking you to put this together? And it's not fully together yet, because obviously we've got Trials Day, the DRF to come, and then hopefully no breaking news, Sergino is out of the Triumph kind of nonsense, which obviously has wrecked your head in years gone by.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, we go to print the Tuesday after Newbury's, what used to be the Betfair Hurdle, now obviously the William Hill Hurdle meeting, where you kind of have pretty much the final trials really in the shape of the Game Spirit and the Denman Chase, and obviously the Kingmaker Novice Chase, Lou Lambert likely to run in one of those. So leave it as late as possible, so we can keep the book as up to date as possible. And obviously need to get in the results from Trials Day this weekend, and then, like you say, obviously a lot happens at Leopardstown next weekend. But yeah, that a couple of years ago when Sergino was ruled out on the day we were going to print, that was a nightmare.
How many pages did he feature on? How many times has he mentioned?
I was trying to remember that. I think it was in the 70. There was 70 pages needed of some sort, whether it was photos or brief mentions or something. It needed changing on that. I think it happened on the Monday. So we had the afternoon and then worked pretty much all night on the Monday to get it through, to get it to print on the Tuesday. So hopefully, touch wood, nothing of that magnitude this year, please.
But there's always some big gun that drops out. Thankfully, we haven't really heard anything yet aside from ones that are already on the sidelines, so brace yourself. And at least it's not like the Underwood typewriter days where you'd have to carefully go back, get the Tipex out and go through everything hand by hand. You can just get onto Apple Pages, search and do it that way, but it's still a bit of a head wreck. For you though, obviously it's an essential guide. We all use it. For me, it's the bundle. I like to have the book, but I also like to be able to use it on the tablet as well. Final Furlong podcast listeners get an exclusive discount, and it's the biggest discount you can get. Weatherbys Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide for 2026 is available as a print and digital bundle, complete with every festival guide, every race, every trend, every profile that actually matters. The bundle for the print and digital copy in Ireland is usually $23.95, so in sterling, convert that for the UK. But Weatherbys will allow you to bundle the two and save 45% if you buy the two together. And there's an even bigger saving for Final Furlong podcast listeners and viewers, because you get an exclusive £4 off. The biggest discount you can get is right here at the Final Furlong podcast. Use your code FFCFBG26. Final Furlong Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide 26 at checkout at weatherbyshop.ie or weatherbyshop.co.uk and get yourself £4 off the print, the digital, or that magic print and digital bundle. FFCFBG26, all capital letters, and it's available to pre-order now, and of course will be published very, very soon. So we're going to take a look at some of the key races this weekend, Paul, with a view to the Cheltenham Festival. We're going to begin, obviously we're going to be doing a full betting preview on Thursday's show, but we're going to begin with the Timeform Novices Handicap Chase at 12:05, which foolishly I said to you, we'll probably just quickly scan over this one. You're like, hold up, wait a minute. This is one of the most prolific races for winners at the Cheltenham Festival in years gone by, and Landière won this race before going on to win the Cathcart, so already I'm interested. But in recent years, it's also produced quite a few winners.
How would you? Probably some of the younger viewers and listeners won't even know what the Cathcart was, but that actually would have been the ideal race for Romeo Coolio with all this talk of where he could have gone, and being for novices and second season chasers, as was back then. Like you say, Stage Star, another recent winner who went on to graded success. He obviously won the now defunct Novices Chase. But in terms of the Novice Handicap itself, which has been reinstated at the festival, 2013 Rajdhani Express for Nicky Henderson finished 7th in the Timeform sponsored race on Saturday. Irish Cavalier finished 3rd before he won the Novice Handicap for Rebecca Curtis. In 2018, Mr. Whittaker completed the double for Mick Shannon. He won that race and then went on. 2020 was probably the best renewal, or arguably the best renewal of the Timeform Novice Handicap Chase. It was won by Simply the Bets, who returned to win the plate, and he beat Imperial Aura, who returned to win the Novice Handicap Chase, which was the last version of it, as we know then, until it was reinstated last year. And of course, last year's winner, Jaguar, returned and won the place at the festival. And looking at the entries, it looks as typically competitive renewal on Saturday. So it could well have some bearing on one or two of the handicaps.
There's a couple of interesting ones that stand out to me. Quebecois has just been bitterly disappointing the last day. You would think that a horse who was sent off even money, or at least odds on, to try and beat Doyen Quest at Exeter would improve significantly, but he bombed spectacularly. That was a run that was too bad to be true. Hopefully Nichols can get him back, and I know he's a horse with a lot of promise. The other McNeil family horse, Caliphate on Vol. Nope. No, thank you. I don't like that horse in the slightest. What is standing out to you? The Enabler would be a really interesting runner if Gordon brought him over, and he's got a few entered, including Wingman, who's not the greatest finisher, shall we say.
Yeah, I could see this cutting up a little bit, actually. As you say, McNeil family colours. If you're looking at the list at the minute, obviously by the time people watch or listen to this, the decks may well be out on Thursday morning if you've not seen it on Wednesday evening. But I'd imagine they'll only have one runner. As you say, Gordon's got quite a few entered. The one out of Gordon's, which interests me most, possibly going forward, is Jacob's Ladder. But he's had his 4 runs now. I know it's already got a mark of 143, so he'd be eligible for the place as well as the novice handicap. Maybe there was a bit of a case of having a look what the English handicapper rates these horses at this stage. So I'd be surprised if more than one represents the Elliott stable. The couple who I'll just touch upon, Jordan's Cross, I thought was pretty impressive first time at Aintree. And then he won at Doncaster last time. But I'd say the one that stands out for me, I think, is Barlovento for Ollie Murphy. Second at Exeter first time out, when he probably hit the front sooner than ideal. I don't know whether there's something in the horse, because he seemed to idle a bit when he got to the front of Kempton. I'd say he won a bit more cosily than the official margin would suggest. Only went up £4 for that victory, so he's only on a mark of 125. So if he is going to get into the novice handicap chase the festival, he'd need to probably win pretty impressively to get his mark up sufficiently. This would only be his 3rd chase start, but that would make him eligible for that if he was rated high enough. I certainly think he's a horse going places and is capable of further improvement from that mark of 125. So he'd be one. The other one, who's rated a little bit higher already, 137, pushed the button for Mark Walford. Just in terms of the horses he's been in and around, and this season he won first time out, then he bumped into Meet Me by the Sea, who was an impressive winner, I thought, last week, up at Ayr, following up. And then last time he split Steel Ally and No Questions Asked. Obviously, No Questions Asked franked that form at Windsor recently, so that's a decent piece of form. So he's got a little bit more experience than some of the others in there. But this would be his 4th chase start, so then it would make him eligible for the open handicaps, not just the novice handicaps. So even before he moved to Mark Walford, he was formerly with Nigel Twiston Davis and running over 3 miles. So perhaps a decent run from him here will open up avenues. Something like the Ultima might come into consideration as well to plate.
Okay, let's touch on the juvenile hurdle, shall we? So the JCB Triumph Hurdle Trial, it's the Grade 2. Juveniles can improve dramatically from January to March, but historically, how strong an indicator for the Triumph Hurdle is this race?
Previously, I think that the thing here is, in recent years, the Irish have been pretty dominant in the Triumph Hurdle, and the Spring Juvenile Hurdle, which is the Grade 1 that takes place now at the Dublin Racing Festival, has been the key form guide of recent years. 9 of the past 14 Triumph Hurdle winners have come out of that race, so obviously pay close attention to that next week. In terms of this race as a Triumph trial, so to speak, the finesse, if you go back a few years, Peace & Co, Defi Desoy, and before that Catch It, all completed the finesse and Triumph double. So in terms of a British race, obviously takes place over the exact same course and distance. So it would be one, if you fancy a British train runner, it would be a race to take seriously with the Triumph in mind, obviously. Okay,
Feel Good is supposedly held in quite high regard. Obviously, Manila Yogo, a famous Paul Nicholls winner. He loved it when he beat Active Innocence the other day, but he's a nice horse. And I know you like that. Maybe the criticism of the Academy Hurdles has suddenly stopped all of a sudden, because maybe they're actually producing some pretty decent horses. But that race has worked out quite well, and Active Innocence is still very interesting for Nicky Anderson at Cheltenham, and obviously Manila Yoga could be a huge player for Paul. And then there's his protege, Dan Skelton, who's got Maestro Conti, who was impressive at Kempton, but should he be such a short price favourite?
He looks probably tight enough. I think he opened up with 1 fair 9-4 the other day, which didn't last very long. feel good. You just touched on for Nicky Henderson. Obviously, hasn't ran for Nicky. He finished second to Macho Man in France. He's actually been declared to run on Friday at Warwick, so obviously rules him out. Man Lager, the other Nicky Henderson trained runner in there, I think she goes to Doncaster, I believe, for the listed fillies race. So it might start to thin out a bit and possibly explains the shorter price. I know Dan pointed Maestro Conti in direction of this race fairly immediately after he'd won at Kempton. I think you're right in saying the form of his Kempton success isn't overly strong. The horse he beat wouldn't be rated anywhere near high enough to be winning a graded race of this nature. But I think his form in France was stronger than what we've seen from him at Kempton so far. He had a horse called Bourbon Haas, 10 lengths back in third. When he won his sole start in France, he went on and ran well in the Grade 1 pre-Cambaceres. So I think that's a decent form line. At Kempton, actually, I was saying to you off air, I actually thought he looked a bit keener, maybe more of a speedy type, but I haven't watched it back a couple of times since, including this morning. He did, despite racing keenly, he did finish quite strongly. So it'd be interesting to see him on the track. I did think initially after Kempton maybe he'd be an Aintree horse, but since then Dan Skelton's had Precious Man win at Kempton, and it looks like he will return to Kempton for the Adonis and then be aimed at the anniversary at Aintree. So it does look as though Maestro Conti is on track to take his chance in the Triumph. So I think they'll be hoping for a bold show in there on Saturday. And as you say, Manila Yoga, he could well be the one who puts it up to him.
Yeah, I'm really interested in Manila Yoga. I'm fascinated to see how the progeny of Study of Man gets on. The other Manila, is it Manila Drama? Manila Study. Yeah, the one who beat Winston Jr. comfortably, and then he's come out and franked that form. Like, he's still a double figure price for the Triumph Hurdle. He's unbeaten in 3. He's a Study of Man. I'm just really intrigued to see how this progeny goes. Yeah,
I was looking at it this morning, actually. I remember at the time when he was going through the sales, they were from the same. It was a bit of a sire people mightn't be too familiar with at this stage, but obviously he's producing a couple of decent juveniles there. Like you say, Manila Study was impressive at the December fixture, I think it was, when he beat One Horse Town of Harry Derham's, he's another one who's entered here. I think it could end up being that he was an early season type and he's gained a lot of experience, so quite whether he's got the same scope and to improve as those at the top of the market on Saturday remains to be seen. Incidentally, that Manila Study goes to, I think believe he goes to Musselburgh for the Scottish Triumph Hurdle trials day up there. So he'd probably take a bit of beating around there. Manila Yoga, as you say, hasn't done much wrong at all. That Academy Hurdle that he won, a couple of those in behind, they haven't won, but they've run well in defeat since and finished closer than they did on that occasion. Purchased for a lot of money. As you say, lowered Active Innocence as colours at Newbury. But I don't think the second lost much in defeat. We'll talk about him when we get onto the Classic Novice Hurdle later. He was trying to concede £20, so it'll be interesting to see how Manila Yoga does. He's actually officially rated 129 and receives £3 from Maestro Conti. So it should be a good race between the two. And again, it'll be pretty informative.
Could be a related contingency double back on these two horses. Including Active Innocence, who will both then be headed hopefully to the Cheltenham Festival. Nicky and Paul trying to get more Grade 1 glory there. This episode is brought to you by 1xBet in Ireland. If you're betting in Ireland, more than 7,000 events for you to get stuck into every single day. Fast withdrawals, new customer specials, loads of incentives for you to sign up for, including as we head to the Dublin Racing Festival Punchestown, which 1xBet will be sponsoring. A huge sponsorship of the Cur as well, official betting partner of the European champions Paris Saint-Germain and of Barcelona FC as well. To get involved, click the link in the episode description. It'll take you right to the 1xBet website in Ireland. 18 plus, terms and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly. Your game, your odds, your 1xBet. The Exchange Handicap Chase 115. Jaguar is going to be a pretty short price favourite. He's been tipped across the boards. Festival Plate, Ryanair, Ultima implications from this race, Paul?
Yeah, I think obviously we know he's got a great course record, 2 from 3 at the track. All 3 runs coming on a new course. I thought he ran quite well, to be honest, on his reappearance. Obviously been off a while against race fit rivals at the time.
Poorly positioned.
And I don't think the stable were in great form at the time. I still don't think they had a winner. I was at Haydock on Saturday and Josh and Ollie had a winner there, but I still don't think they're in quite the same form as they were early season. So he's gone up a pound for that, which I think is fairly reasonable. I can't see why he wouldn't run a good race, and he's going to be obviously the marker. Horse from marker 149. Like I say, if he was to go and win, you would imagine that the Ryanair would come under consideration then if he's rated somewhere towards the mid 150s. Previous winners or links from this race in 2019, Cyril Delac done the double. He won this race for Nick Williams, and pretty sure Lizzie Kelly was riding at the time then. On trials day, it was a good race that. I remember being there for that one. He won this race and then followed up in the plate. And in 2022, the plate winner Cool Cody finished 7th in this race. So again, it has had knock-on effects for the plate at the festival. Again, I think this looks a fairly strong race, especially if JPR won. I think probably Jaguar's connections will probably be hoping that JPR1 runs and keeps the weights down slightly for him and being on a mark of 156. The other interesting one for me, I thought, was Javert Alain for Jane Williams. And Kieran Gethens obviously enjoying a good season together. Still lightly raced over fences. The issue with him is I think he would have to settle. He's trying a new longer trip for the first time, and he can be quite keen in his races. But if Kieran can get him settled out in the front, I think the track will really suit him. He's been to Cheltenham before, but we've seen in previous races like this, the new course lends itself to a positively ridden or a front runner in these over fences on this track. So I could see him going well, and if he managed to get him settled in front and he gets home in receipt of a lot of weight from the other horses, he'd definitely be of interest. I certainly think from a mark of 128, I think there could be a decent race in him at some stage.
I remember on Temps 2 being beaten in the Novices Handicap chase in 2016. Yeah, 2016. He was sent off 3-1 favourite. Something about the way he shaped that day.
And then he went on to the Ultima. So.
Yeah, there's something about the way he shaped that day over 2 mile 5 that made me think you're going to win back up and trip to 3 miles. Is there anything in either of those two races that really stands out to you now with a view to the Ultima and the other handicap chases at Cheltenham?
As I say, Javert, there was actually one in the same colours as Javert and Knight of Alain. I know he's not, just digressing slightly. I had expected to see him entered in the novice handicap chase. He wasn't given entry. I think when he steps up to 3 miles in the spring, there could be something decent in him. It ran well when he wasn't really on ratings. He wasn't really entitled to last time out. As I say, out of the opening race, if Jacob's Ladder turns up, which I'd be surprised if he was, but he'd be one who I'd have on my radar off a mark of 143 for the spring. Push the button if you're talking about horses who could go up and trip, who we already touched upon just with his form being quite solid. But I think out of both of them, in terms of the handicaps, the one I think who was very much on the up, I think, is Barlavento. But I say he will need to win on Saturday to have any chance of getting near the festival handicaps. And again, he might even need to come out and win or run and win again before the weights are announced. So he'd probably be the most interesting out of the two races for me, certainly, if you're talking about looking towards the festival.
It's a fair bit of weight for Touchman not to be carrying, but I want to do a bigger deep dive into him before Thursday's show, because if he gets declared, I'd be interested. Maybe not for this race, but certainly if they can get some of the jumping kinks sorted out, then he's going to be an intriguing horse at some point. The cross-country handicap chase, so this is rescheduled. We're supposed to have it in December. We're going to have it in this race fixture instead. I'm a bit frustrated at myself because I was saying to the lads on Monday after we recorded, that Emmet Mullins horse is probably going to go off favourite and he's probably going to win. And he's now favourite. Whether he wins is another matter entirely. Final Orders was good, though, when he beat him, but that was his first run for Emmet. Eligible to improve, second run off a layoff, second run for the stable. Final Orders, one of the few shining lights for Gavin Cromwell this season. And then there's a couple of Professor Caroline Tisdale horses in there as well. Both of them trained by David Cotan. Who takes your eye? A Favori de Chamdeau would be a fascinating runner, having unseated behind Final Orders and then winning the Paddy Power chase at the Leopardstown Christmas meeting. What's the significance of this for the now cross-country handicap chase at the Cheltenham Festival? And is there anything for this Saturday that really stands out to you? In
terms of the festival race in general, 14 of the 20 winners of the festival race had either run at either the November or December meetings, which effectively this race is. And that does include, we have had previous races rescheduled from one of those meetings to trials, then they are included in that. So having a bit of experience on the course, just even one start earlier in the season, is obviously a positive. Like I say, I think the obvious form line there is from the December meeting. You say, how do you pronouncing it? Jarive Delay. Like you say, he was having his first
Say it with
start
confidence and say it
Mullins.
quickly, and it will work.
Yeah, that's how
Jarive Delay.
JDL. Let's call him JDL.
JDL, perfect.
JDL. He was, as you say, was having his first start. Having moved from France to Emmet Mullins and Paul Byrne. I thought he ran really well, to be fair. As you say, you would expect improvement forthcoming, up £3. He's only rated 126 at the moment, and the bottom weight in the festival last year was 138. So in terms of, he's going to need to win and win well to get his mark up, if that, which you would assume is the aim. There was a few horses who ran from out of the handicap, and people tend to be more inclined to run from out of the handicap in the cross country than they would in other big races. But still, I'm never really a fan of backing such horses. So you'd want his mark up sufficiently. So rather like Barlovento, if he's going to go and have serious festival aspirations, you'd want to be seeing him win well on Saturday probably. Final orders went up £9 for that 4 1/4 length. So there's a £6 swing of the weights. Again, the main thing with him, and I say, if he comes over, and I assume if he does, Keith Donaghy will ride. Obviously, he's a massive factor in races of his record over the cross-country course. It's phenomenal. It's always a positive to have inside, but you would have to worry about the form of the Cromwell stable. You've said it. You've gone pretty much all season. You've been waiting for them to kickstart, and a couple of times they've looked like they have, but they just haven't really got going. And even now, the last 14 days there, when you look, he's 0 from 41. So it would have to be a concern, especially with, you say, he's going to be a fairly short price. And knock-on effect, at the minute, the two of those final orders is currently a best price 10 to 1 for the festival, and JDL, as we're going to call him, is 12 to 1 best at present. So wait and see. But I say that before anyone's considering back an anti-post, you do have to factor in the fact that he's only rated 126 Emmet Mullins horse now, and last year 138 was the bottom weight at the festival. So he does need to get his mark up somewhat.
Yeah, and this is Paul Byrne, and they don't mess around. Normally when these boys take aim at a long-range target, they tend to hit the target. So they're going to have to get him. They'll need to win, really, but maybe a good. Yeah, I was going to say maybe a good second, but actually that's not going to be enough. They're going to have to win this.
He was good second last time and only went up £3.
Yeah,
really?
123 to 126, whereas final orders, as you were saying, 138 to 147. So this is it. If you want to get him into the Cheltenham Festival, he's going to have to go and win, which is why most bookmakers have cut him down to about 5 to 2, which is around about the price you can get currently with 1xBet if you're betting in Ireland as well. And I don't know, maybe at that point he becomes a horse that you have to try and take on. There's some interesting ones in there. Just in terms of the cross-country race overall, is there any age profile that we should be looking at for that race from an anti-post perspective? Is there? I know the PP Hogan Memorial Race. That's one that has often featured in the past in your Weatherbys Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide. Picking the winner of the race. But is that as relevant to race as it used to be back in the Bulger days? Shall we say?
It was more in the Bulger days, as you say. But and it's difficult at the minute because the race is kind of evolving back to being a handicap, having been basically a glorified hunting ground for former Grade 1 winners. So
ex-Gold Cup horses.
Exactly. It's still kind of finding its feet, I'd say, in that regard. But nothing standing out really in terms of, say, you need a bit of experience. There's not many horses who can go to win the festival race and the cross country course without any previous cross country experience. I think there might only be 1 or 2 out of the whole 20. And that does include, so the Banks course is important as well when you're looking at previous form. And of course, there was the one French winner, JP's, who obviously had point-to-point cross-country form in France. So it's more a case of having had a sighter at the course, really, and taking it from there.
Shout out to Laurent Barbaran, who was on the podcast with me and said, this thing cannot be beaten. He cannot be beaten. He was the nap on every single Cheltenham preview night. He was at 10 to 1. Easy's Land?
Easy's Land.
Easy game. More like it. Easy game. Oh my goodness.
He was by far the youngest winner. He was like a complete anomaly, really, in terms of previous winners of the race.
Well, he was an anomaly, all right. Remember what happened to him the year afterwards, and then when he was switched to John Joe. Amazing how that form just suddenly spectacularly stopped. But it doesn't matter. Shout out to our good friend Laurent Barbaron, who we'll have back on the podcast before the Cheltenham Festival. Cotswold Chase. So this is just an enigma of a race, really, because it's over the course and distance. It's on the new course. This should be the ideal guide to the Gold Cup, and arguably it's the worst. Why?
I don't know whether it's because, well, often Trials Day, which to be fair, we should probably have touched on, and I'm sure you will do before you do your in-depth preview into the card with the other guests. But I imagine we're going to be looking at soft ground. The ground was changed to soft this morning on Wednesday morning, and it does look like there's a fair bit of rain anticipating in the area. So I imagine we'll be racing on soft ground on Saturday, and I think that probably has something to do with it. 3 miles, 1.5 furlongs on testing ground, 7 weeks, bar a day to the Gold Cup. Possibly isn't the ideal stepping stone to the Gold Cup that people think it would be. The last Gold Cup winner to run in the race looks like trouble back in 2000.
26 years.
Yeah, so it goes to show. It's a fair old time. That and the next race we go on to the International or Unibet or the Beulah.
Spoilers, Paul. Spoilers. That's like telling us the end of House of the Dragon. Don't do that.
Go on then. As for this race, Cotswold Chase today, yeah. I think that has something. I just think the time and a lot of the races are ideally timed on Trials Day and DRF, but I just think maybe it's too much of a grueling contest for a Gold Cup contender.
Well, the Gold Cup itself is quite wide open this season because
it is, yeah.
All of a sudden, I mean, I can take every positive in the world, and I was there at Leopardstown when Galop on the Champ rounded the final turn, got into contention. The whole crowd went completely bananas. The roar was incredible, and then that roar suddenly just got sucked up when all of a sudden the Noel Mead horse, Affidel Fury, comes flying back at them. But if you wanted to be hypercritical of Galop on the Champ, you could say this is a horse who is immortal at Cheltenham, with the exception of the stupid Turner's race where somehow the landing gear doesn't come down. But over fences, he was unbeaten there. Over fences, he was unbeaten at Leopardstown. And now he's not. He's been beaten in a Gold Cup.
He had another prep run.
He hadn't. But the point has also been made in other places as well that it's a big difference from prepping in the John Durkin Memorial Chase over 2.5 to prepping in a 3 mile grade one.
True.
It's going to take more out of you. So look, please God, I'll be there at the DRF. I really hope he wins. I'd love to see him do it, and I think he's going to take all the beating. But suddenly he's a horse that he's not as unbeatable in the Gold Cup as it looked at one point. I don't know what the hell is going on with I Know the Way You're Thinking. We've talked about that quite a bit. Django Bai, yeah, he'd be very interesting. Jukebox Man is totally unexposed. Gaelic Warrior, if they could control him, and he did win an Oracle. But Grey Dawning's really interesting, as is Haughty Colour. It's obviously a trainer's championship situation. That's why he's going for this race. But I think he is a big runner in the Gold Cup. He hasn't run in the race before, so he hasn't been through the acid test of a Gold Cup. He's a Grade 1 Cheltenham Novice Chase winner, and he won the Betfair Chase in the Bridle. For all that the horse he beat that day was lapped in a handicap chase at Haydock the other day. But I'd like to think that Grey Dawning is a big player in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, I think it's his race to lose on Saturday, but it just wouldn't have been the place I'd have gone with him personally. But I think I can understand that. I think initially there was talk of him going over to Ireland for the Savills Chase, but I think realistically, as you say, with the trainer's title coming under consideration, Dan surely can't afford to be giving up an opportunity like this to be to win. The thing I would think of it, if it did become really testing and it was a slog up the hill, I still have slight queries about his reservations of stamina. Look, he's 2-1 on and easily the most likely winner, but he certainly wouldn't be one I'd be looking to back at short odds. But where you're looking to oppose him, it's pretty thin on the ground. You don't even know for a fact if Stella Story will turn up. He's got the option to run next week. Flooring Porter, obviously he's been off a while, and still, even though he won over fences last time we've seen him, you wouldn't say he was the same force over fences as he was over hurdles. That leaves Lon Presse, who obviously won the race last year, acts well at the track, but was beaten on his comeback fairly comprehensively in handicap company. And again, talking about stables in form, Venetia's really struggling at the moment, so you'd be hard to be too confident. So that leaves Spillane's Tower as the one. He's the unexposed stayer. He's receiving £6 from Grey Dawn, and I didn't think he run too badly behind El Fabiola last time over hurdles. So, in terms of, say, over the trip, he is still unexposed. But again, that's over 3 miles. Again, I'd slightly be worried about the trip for Spillane's Tower. So he's the one I came down on, was the one that could beat him. But my fears are the same over him as they are for Grey Dawn, and of getting up the hill and over 3 mile, 1.5 furlongs on soft ground. So it'll very much be a watching brief for me. And say it might well give us a point towards the Gold Cup. But if you look back at when Grey Dawn won that, as it was the turn as Novices chased the old Gold Miller, he was getting quite tired over 2.5 coming up the hill that day. So it would just be in the back of my mind, the stamina reservations coming up the hill.
Yeah. I understand why those stamina reservations would be there. I should have looked this up beforehand. Is the forecast really bad?
It's not really bad, but there is, I say it on the BHA site this morning, the ground was updated to soft. And I say I just had a brief look before we come on air. It's not horrific, but today, tomorrow and Friday there is rain. So I can't see I can't see it improving significantly, put it that way. It says it's dry on Saturday at the minute.
The only reason I'm asking that question is that if it's soft ground now and it's going to be proper soft ground on Saturday, there's only one horse that would really interest me for this race. Stellar Story.
Yeah, it's proper stay, only. Once he got some makeup on him.
Slogger, and this would arguably the one time he'll actually get his conditions. Up the hill.
He's got 14 lengths to make up on Grey Dawn, hasn't he?
Yeah, but you're now going up the hill at Cheltenham on soft ground.
And his record at the festival is good.
He's a Cheltenham Festival hero. He was second in the Brown Advisory last year. He has absolutely no chance of beating Alpha Del Fury, never mind an improving Gallop on the Champ. So why would you go to the Irish Gold Cup? Go to this race. Give him a chance to go and shine. This race could be made for him. But we'll see if they decide to go for it. I think if they do, then a double figure price with him would be interesting. But maybe the reason he's a double figure price is because they want to go for the Irish Gold Cup instead. This episode is brought to you in association with Weatherbys for Paul Ferguson's excellent Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide, which is available for pre-order right now. I'm getting the print and digital bundle because I like to have the print copy, but I use the iPad version more often than not, quite frankly. Probably for our eyes, we should just be using the book. Whichever one you want to get, whether it's the print, the digital, or that bundle, you can take advantage of our promo code right now at weatherbyshop.co.uk or weatherbyshop.ie. It's €4 in Ireland, £4 off in the UK for the print edition, the digital edition, or the bundle. FFCFBG26, that's your code. FFCFBG26. Use the promo code at checkout and get yourself £4 off your copy of the print, the digital, or the bundle. And if you buy the bundle at weatherbyshop.co.uk, they're already giving you 45% off that compared to buying them together otherwise. And you get your exclusive Final Furlong Podcast discount code. FFCFBG26. It is the essential guide for the Cheltenham Festival. Every race, every trend, every profile that actually matters. Pedigree analysis. It is a superb read. And Paul Ferguson has got you covered for Cheltenham 2026. And this episode is also brought to you by the company you can bet on for Cheltenham 2026 and for the DRF and for the flat season and for everything else going. There's over 7,000 events for you to bet on every single day with 1xBet. Fast withdrawals, loads of new customer sign-up incentives. 18 plus, terms and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly. Click the link in the episode description. It'll take you right to the 1xBet website in Ireland where you can get stuck in and get involved. Gamble responsibly. 18 plus only. Terms and conditions apply. Your game, your odds, your 1xBet. From one interesting race, fascinating race, but bad Cheltenham trial, to another interesting race, but bad Cheltenham trial. Although this season is probably going to be a bit of a, well, it's almost certainly going to be different because we've got the first and second favourites for the Champion Hurdle. And as things stand, neither of them are blinking. Sergino's going to take on the New Lion, and it's pretty difficult to see one of those two horses not winning unless Golden Ace manages to pull off another miraculous Grade 1 success. What are the implications for the Champion Hurdle based on the Beulah, as it should be known?
Obviously this is another race that moved in the calendar a couple of years ago. It used to be at the December fixture. Again, I think timing-wise there may well be one of the reasons behind the disappointing record of champion hurdle horses when I get to that shortly. It used to fall, obviously, mid-December, which would prevent, or a horse couldn't run there and in the Christmas hurdle. So I think that was part of the decision for moving it to the end of January. The first running was 2 years ago when Lossiemouth did win the Unibet hurdle as it is now, but you rightly say it's the Beulah, and then it was the International. She went on to win the Mares hurdle, but during the past 22 years, 14 winners of this race have gone on to the champion hurdle, and all 14 were beaten. The last horse to win the champion hurdle, having contested the Beulah earlier in the season, was Rooster Booster. He completed the double in the 2002-2003 season when he took all before him as an older horse. As you say, though, you've got probably the strongest running in terms of two horses towards the head of the bet. And I say last year we had Constitution Hill won the race last year, but then fell in the champion hurdle to add to the woes of that statistic. But currently got Sergino and the New Lion first and second favourites in the anti-post market for the champion hurdle, taking each other on. So it should be a fantastic race. So
Sergino's proven over course and distance. He won the Juvenile trial here a couple of years ago. The New Lion won on the old course in the Baring Bingham / Turners. On Saturday, which of the two do you favour? And the follow-up question is, which of the two of these do you think will be better suited to the champion hurdle test?
Sergino. I think if you're a fan of the New Lion, which I've got not, certainly I was keen on him last year and with him throughout. I think Saturday over 2 mile one and in receipt of £3 might give him a better chance of beating Sergino than over a dead 2 miles off level weights in the champion hurdle. The thing with the New Lion, obviously, he's coming on the back of having fallen in the fight in fifth. He's going to track. You would imagine he'll track the pace throughout. Sergino, you would think, would make the run and doesn't look much else. Obviously, we don't know at this stage if Brentford Hope and the Main Lion are going to say, no, Poneros is meant to be a runner. It'd be a huge step up for him on his first start out of Juvenile company, I would have thought. So it really does look, whether the other two are in there or not, it does look a 2-horse race. I imagine Sergino will just go forward as he did at Kempton. He was pretty impressive that day, but he did look a little bit rusty and a little bit keen, so you could expect him to step forward. I've just loved him since he came over from France, to be honest. So I just think he's got everything, and whether it was over fences or now over hurdles, as the case is going to be, I think deteriorating ground won't be an issue to him. He stays well, even though he races keenly. As you said, he was devastating over course and distance 2 years ago in the Finesse Juvenile hurdle. And I would be disappointed if we didn't see something pretty similar on Saturday.
Yeah, disappointing. A couple of firms have gone win only already. Okay.
Well,
I mean, it's not current as things stand. It is an each way race, and it's only 1-2, so it's not like you're getting massive value. But for a couple of major corporate firms to already go win only, that's a bit much. There's also a price discrepancy. A couple of firms are going 5-2 on, 3-1 on. One firm goes about Sergino, but there's one or two firms that are going standout 2s on.
Yeah, I didn't think he was. I did think when I was surprised when he opened up so short. To be honest, I didn't think he'd be 3-1 on to beat the New Lion. That's for sure. But it's whether once declarations go in and maybe the market will level itself out. I didn't think there'd be that much between them. There was a bit of disparity, but if you're asking me, again, it wouldn't be a race I'd be betting in personally at those prices. But if you're asking me who I think is the most likely winner, I think it's without doubt Sergino.
You've already sort of alluded to it by saying that you think this would be a big step up for Poneros out of Juvenile company. But do you think he can outrun his odds of 12-1?
Well, it could be that he's the only other runner in the race, couldn't it? So I think that's possibly. I don't know. Brentford Hope only won last week. He did run in this race last year, didn't he? So I imagine it's the intention to run if he's okay after his win at Haydock last week. Try and pick up a little bit of prize money in the Main Line. Equally, he ran last weekend. He won the Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide hurdle, of course, on Friday at Windsor. Plug. But
Potter's Charm won the race, but he ran.
Potter's Charm won it. Sorry, he ran on it. Yeah, he won it the year before. Sorry, of course. Yeah, well, I don't know. Outrunner's odds of 12-1 is Outrunner's odds of 12-1 finishing third behind them two. I don't really know. It just doesn't appeal as a betting race to me. As you say, there's not going to be an each way angle into it, so it's probably just a race people can watch and enjoy, and then form further opinions for the Cheltenham Festival on the back of it.
I think that's interesting, just from the point of view of the win-only prices being put up by two of the major corporate bookmakers. Conor O'Farrell is jocked up to ride in the main line. Paul O'Brien is jocked up to ride Brentford Hope. Willie Mullins has said Ponross is an intended runner, and we know that Sergino and the New Line are intended runners. Okay,
you see it quite often, though, don't you? During the weekend races where you think there might be 8, 9, 10 runners at entry stage, but you can gauge an opinion that there might only be 4 or 5 or 6 who are going to turn up, and the bookies don't want to take any each way liabilities in the anti-post book. So
I think it makes sense that the main line.
It's nothing new.
It's not, but it's disappointing. I think it makes sense that the main line would run here if they decided to roll him out. He is Kerry Lee's stable star, but he's not getting any younger, and there's a fair bit of prize money. All he has to do is gallop round, and if he finishes 50, he's picking up £3,000.
Yeah, I'd say his next target wouldn't be. He'd probably go back to Fontwell for the
National Spirit
Hurdle. That's like still a month away, so there's no reason if he's all right why he couldn't run.
Yeah, and also you're going to bump into that Dan Skelton horse, which looks a bit of a superstar since he switched to Dan Skelton.
And Potter's Charm again, I think, as well, meant to be going there.
Yeah.
So. Could be a good race this year.
Another horse that's improved for switch of stables. But hey, that happens. Some horses just, they like the change in scenery and come alive. A better trial for the Cheltenham Festival is the Cleeve Hurdle, the Temps Network Cleeve Hurdle, to give it its proper title. So over the 3 miles, we've got Impost Trois, who we're currently sitting on a 20-1 docket for the Stairs Hurdle. He's 11-8 for the weekend. Thelem, 805 days off the track. Once described as the horse who was going to beat Tiapu and that I was completely insane. He ended up missing Cheltenham. Tiapu goes and wins, and Adam Mills was still convinced that had he been there, Thelem would have run. But Adam was saying on Monday, 5-2 for this race, having not run for 805 days. That's insane. Strong leader, fine horse, Smash and 2. Yeah, nice horse. Dolly the Great. Back to the scene of his Pretemps win. This could bring out the best in him, but he's got an awful lot to find with his stable companion Impost Trois, who really should take a lot of beating in this race. If he wins it, what does that say for his chances in the Stairs Hurdle? What are the trends for this race going into the Stairs, and what do you make of him overall against Tiapu and the rest of the Irish challengers?
Again, you just touch on what the Cleeve used to be. The Cleeve, obviously, going back a few years, younger viewers and listeners mightn't realise that it used to be a race that staged over 2 mile 5 furlongs, and now it is run over the exact same course and distance as the Stairs Hurdle. So it is the ideal trial for the Stayers. 8 of the past 19 Stayers Hurdle winners have run in this race. English Drever finished second and won it in his 2 years before he won the Stayers. Biggs Books twice used this as a stepping stone by winning. Thistlecrack and Paisley Park competed the double in recent years. Cole Harden finished 4th. Liz Nagar-Oscar finished 3rd in it. So we have seen beaten horses improve upon it. So it is certainly in terms of British trained contenders for the Stayers Hurdle, this does tend to be the key trial in the season.
What do you make of Impost Trois' chance?
Yeah, when I initially seen the entry, I was a little surprised that he was in there. I felt like that he'd been on the go, but I'm thinking he's already had 3 runs. He's had a busy season. It might be difficult for him to. But as I was looking through, most of the opposition have had the 3 runs, so which is good to see. So we certainly shouldn't be crabbing horses who we're seeing regularly on a basis. We're normally the opposite way around and bemoaning the fact that we don't get to see these horses. So he's obviously showed huge improvement this season, whether that's coincided with maturity or the stepping up in distance, or both probably. But he's a horse who's gone well at Cheltenham in the past. He only run there twice before, won a Novice Handicap hurdle, going back a couple of years. Obviously finished a respectable second to Jimmy DeSoy off a mark of 145 in the Coral Cup last year, which then I thought that was kind of his level. He'd found his level. He came out bolted up off 148 at Aintree, and his improvement hasn't stopped. When he won at Newbury in the long distance hurdle, he was receiving £6 from Strong Leader. So he improved on that to beat the same rival at Ascot off level weights. It was obviously a grade 1. So Strong Leader is north from 5 at Cheltenham. It's really hard to see him reversing the form at this track. Track they say that Impost Trois has run well at previously. So he's the one on the up in the field. He won't man the ground. I'd look further down at something like Marchand who's got good course form, but he's definitely better on better ground. I don't think soft ground will play to his strengths. As you say, Talem's got he's got all the class in the world, but to win this on the back of 805-day layoff would be some performance, wouldn't it?
It'd be one of the greatest training performances we've seen for quite a while, especially on his British debut as well. So I mean, best of luck to them. So, I think Adam said to me he thinks the reason he's so fancy for this race is they can't waste much time with him. They feel like he's in good form, so go for this. But there isn't really anything else for him.
No, there isn't. It was the only conceivable option. I believe he wasn't quite ready in the build up to Christmas time, and he needed that extra bit of time, extra month. So realistically, this was the only option for him to get a race in ahead of the festival. But like I say, if he'd been off for so long, you'd imagine he'd be pretty straight. But that's nevertheless, it'd take some effort to win. As I say, Marchand two from two at Cheltenham in the season. He finished 7th in the Alba Bala last year. He's still rated only mid 140s, but I did see there would have been a case for him running reasonably well, but I think the ground might just go against him on Saturday. Doddy the Great's not too dissimilar, really. He's rated 148 now. He was only 131 when he won up at Temps, so even at the age of 9, 10 and 10, he's now 10. He seems to have continued his progression a little bit this season. We've seen a little bit more of him. He's obviously also had his problems over the years, but he was 6 lengths off Imposed to at Newbury. He was the best part of 10 lengths off him at Ascot. Again, even in receipt of £2, it's difficult to see really how he can reverse the form as well. So I think all roads really point back to Imposed to being difficult to beat.
Classified, Ingles Drever, Big Bucks, Rev de Savola, Thistle Crack, and you know what I mean, Harry, all carried 11 stone 8 to win. Hopefully, Imposed to can add his name to the roll of honour for the Cleeve Hurdle and then consolidate his position as a very, very strong contender for the Stayers Hurdle for what could be.
I think the Stayers looks a better race this season than we've had in recent years. It looks a cracking race.
Race.
Which is good. And I think that's quite indicative of a lot of the festival races this year. It's quite refreshing that we're going in with not too many short price favourites, not a Willie Mullins dominated set of markets. So
ironically, it might end up being a Willie Mullins dominated Cheltenham Festival, but it doesn't look like it right now.
It could be, yeah.
You can never underestimate what Willie is capable of. But the thing that I find fascinating is Nicky Henderson is currently going there with All Park Star 9-4 for the Supreme, Luamba 6-4 for the Arkle, Sergino, as we record, 5-4 for the Champion Hurdle. Dare we even begin to mention what Constitution Hill's price might be if he wins in the all-weather. Active Innocence, that 14-1 could be a huge price. We're about to talk about him in a second. John Bond, who knows, maybe they go Quimillo Champion Chase again, but he could be a very interesting one for the Ryanair Chase. Impost Trois is currently 11-2 for the Stayers Hurdle, were he to run in that race. John Bond is 8-1 for that. He's got a couple of horses for the Triumph Hurdle, including that Field Gutter we're going to see at the weekend. He's currently 40s. If he's as good as they think, that'll be a shorter price. And Django Bai is a 7-1 shot. So Nicky Henderson's got a really strong team for Cheltenham this year.
I was only saying that to someone this morning on the phone. Actually, I thought it's probably his strongest team he's had in a long time. Old Park Star, I've seen him in the flesh for the last Saturday was the first time I've seen him in the flesh since he was a young horse down in Paul's, and he'll make some chaser next year.
What did you make of him with the view to the Supreme, though?
But, I think he sets the standard head and shoulders. So I thought the race he won at Kempton was a stronger race on paper than the race he won at Cheltenham, where he was visually hugely impressive. That race at Kempton was a decent race. For one of them's actually an ear fortune to me in the classic Novice Hurdle on the last race on the card on Saturday. He came out and won by a wide margin on Boxing Day. Unson La Vida finished second that day. He won again at Ludlow and is as short as 5 and 6-1 for the William Hill Hurdle, the old Betfair Hurdle. I think that Kempton race was good. He showed a good turn of foot. Cheltenham, he was really good, but I wanted to see him go and do it again. I thought maybe the track would be a little bit sharp for him last week. I thought he'd win, but I certainly wasn't expecting him to put up the performance that he did, because you say Hurricane Pat had actually beaten him in a bumper at Sandown. I think the third horse of Nicky Richards, Chiapatas, was rated 125. He seemed to travel well through the race, so I don't think all of them could have underperformed him behind. I just thought it was a hugely impressive performance. And when the prices were getting bandied around afterwards. And I did actually ask Michael Sheen as a Sky Bet for the price for next year's Arkle, but he wasn't forthcoming. He didn't come back to me. So
we can ask the One Expect team what they'll come up with for you.
Go on, then, yeah.
If you can ask very, very politely and very nicely, they might be willing to look after you. Well, speaking of Nicky Henderson and these owners, Gordon and Sue Hall, they've got Active Innocence, who's 6-4 for the ACES Novice Hurdle, the Grade 2. It's the classic Novice Hurdle.
Yep.
We were talking beforehand about Nichol's horse for the Juvenile Hurdle. He may very well win and then become a big contender for the Triumph Hurdle if he does so. What kind of a contender is Active Innocence for the Turner's Novice Hurdle? And so at Fisher's Cross and the new one, finishing first and second in this race, and then both going on to win Grade 1s at the Cheltenham Festival, was something that was very strong on my mind. And then Paul Ferguson blew my brain when he said, that was 2013. I was like, what? No, I'm so old. So what's the record of this race for producing Cheltenham Festival winners, and what do you make of Active Innocence?
Just on that, time flies, doesn't it? I remember being there that day, and it was pretty dark, and it might well be the case on Saturday, being in 8-race card and 4:10. I think if it's a wet day, it'll be pretty similar. I think it was pitch black by the time at Fisher's Cross beat the new one that day. Obviously, those two returned to the festival to win the Albert Bartlett and Baron Bingham, respectively. More recently, there hasn't been much of an impact, but say there was a seven-year period between 2007 2013 when Wichita Lyman won this race on the Saturday, and Massini's Maguire was finished third. Tidal Bay split them, and Massini's Maguire beat Tidal Bay in the Baron Bingham. So obviously that's 2 out of those years. 2 winners have come out of the race, and in 2011 Bobsworth did the double. He won the Classic, and again followed up in the Albert Bartlett. That's one thing I'd say. If the ground is really soft on Saturday, this race does tend to lean more towards the stay-in type than the speed horse, which is just something to bear in mind with the top 2 in the betting stepping up in trip from 2 miles. I'm not saying that they can't stay, but this race historically has been more of about stamina than speed.
Does he make sense to you as a 6-4 favourite? What about the Ben Paulding horse? His yard is flying. Ben Jones is flying. They've got Taurus Bay 4-1.
I actually think this looks a really good race, to be honest. And probably arguably one of the ones I'm most looking forward to on Saturday. Active Innocence, he hadn't done much wrong at all. People probably thought he had his bubble burst at Newbury last time, but as you say, if Manelli Yoga's currently rated 129, he probably doesn't even need to win. He could run well and be beaten maybe by Maestro Conti and run to that kind of level on Saturday. So you're talking Active Innocence, trying to give him £20, has probably ran to almost, if that's a literal read, and probably ran more towards the high 140s mark. Anyway, he's currently rated 134. He beat Sinatra the time before, obviously. He's boosted that form. If you go back further into his bump form last year, which was good, he finished 4th behind Sober Glory in the listed race at Newbury, which Baron Noir finished 3rd. So he's been in and around good horses the whole time. Again, physically, a nice horse. I seen him at Newbury, not the last time he ran, but when he beat Sinatra, I was there that day. Again, the trip, he does look like the trip could bring about further improvement. I just have slight reservations whether they'll be taking such a short price on Saturday against what looks like a really good field with the trip being an unknown. On better ground, I don't think it would have been as much an issue, but if it is genuinely soft ground, I would just bear that in mind. Say, I saw Taurus Bay at Aintree in December, was it, when he won what was only a small field race. He beat Captain Hugo. Again, he's franked that form, but it was a bit of a farce of a race, really. There wasn't much in it, but I was really taken with Taurus Bay in the prelims before and the way he went through the race. He shapes like going up in triple Susan, but he doesn't look devoid of pace. So again, I'd have the 2 of them in similar. I'd have similar minds around the 2 of them, and it'll definitely be fascinating. There's others in there as well. I'd definitely give chances to bigger odds. So I think it looks a cracking race. So how about you? Are you leaning one way or the other out of those top 2 in the market?
Well, I'll say who the selection is on Thursday's show. The thing that is the really interesting talking point for me is that we're going to get a proper test of No Drama This Ends form. Like, irrespective of what happens with Active Innocence, you're going to have heads up run, and it's his first run since No Drama This Ends, if John McConnell sends him over, and he's short enough in the betting, so he probably will. And Sean Bone is jocked up to ride the Blue Room. who the McNeil family were saying, Max McNeil was saying after the race, he's held in high regard, and he'd won his previous 2. So it'll give us it should give us a fair guide as to just how good No Drama This End is.
And Clint Madrick as well finished. Clint Madrick's in there, isn't he? Third favourite. He obviously finished second to No Drama This End.
Yeah.
Cello. He's got the highest rating at the minute of 137. He's so officially the handicapper has got him on the highest rating. The Blue Room is the one I liked at the prices.
Yeah, that's what I was interested in too. Actually, George.
Yeah. He's also know well from Ollie's. I've seen him when he first came over last year, and before he'd run the bumper, and he's always been held in high regard. Again, he's a staying chaser in the making, but he's a good looking horse. I think if it became a stamina test, it would suit him. I think he's crying out for 3 miles in time. So again, a big field and a strongly run race. I'd probably be leaning his way at the minute at the prices. He beat the double measure first time out at Chepstow. Double measure goes to Huntingdon on Thursday. So although he was beating a Haydock in a decent race, next time he probably wasn't well positioned on that occasion. So I'd expect him to frank the form, but that form's already been boosted considerably because 25 lengths away and third came from nowhere. He's won his 2 races since 2 handicaps. He bolted up off 124 at Ascot last week and is now rated 132. So I think it's safe to say that the Blue Room's going to be better than his current rating of 129. And of course, he went on to finish second to No Drama This End in the Grade 2 Winters Novices Hurdle at Sandown. When, if you watch the race back, he was ridden patiently by Sean, but he was just about looked like he was going to start making his move when he made an untimely error, fairly serious mistake, 2 out. Yeah, he still came back and finished a clear-cut second. So there probably wouldn't be as much between him and No Drama This End, and similar to the other horses got close to him, but for that mistake. So currently he's trading at 14-1. He'd certainly be worth an each way interest, I'd say, on Saturday. And looking beyond that, it wouldn't surprise me if he became a bit of an interesting outsider for the Albert Bartlett, for which he can be backed at 50-1 at present.
Ooh, name of that horse again?
The Blue Room.
Yeah, just a couple of other horses in there as well that are coming in the back of nice performances last time out. They were sent off short price favourites and they got the job done, and they could all take a massive step up in form as well. We'll have declarations on Thursday. We'll go through the race for you in full on the normal weekend preview. But there's some horses for the shortlist. Very high on my list though is the Blue Room. I'm really intrigued by him. Sean is also jocked up on the other Ollie Murphy horse at Dundee. I thought he was interesting too. A bit of a nonsense race he won at Plumpton, but intriguing. And Bossman Jack I'm very interested in. That Crystal Destraval looked a superstar, unfortunately out for the season.
I think he's a good horse. Bossman Jack, he's a half brother to Gidley Park, but the only thing it's quite a quick turnaround. The horse he beat, Stars, and was beaten yesterday. Short odds, I think he came out pretty quick. So whether he turns up, I'm not sure. And then there's a couple of others in there, Carlin Rig and Step Ahead, who've got alternate engagements at Doncaster in the River Don, which is obviously another race which might have implications on the Albert Bartlett on Saturday.
Yeah, okay. The Blue Room heads the shortlist for us now. Obviously, Active Innocence is the really intriguing one, Taurus Bay, but proceed with caution because the ground.
I think if Active Innocence wins that and wins that well against what looks like a strong field, I think he'll be straight into second favourites for the Bear and Bingham behind No Drama This End. And
he's currently around about 14s with 1xBet. Yeah. So it's just funny. People just immediately dismissed him once he was beaten there and didn't really look at the fact that, he was conceding £20. And Manila Yoga could be a real good horse.
Exactly.
Like sometimes I thought people got a little bit too upset with the fact that Paul Nicholls dared to express an opinion. I mean, how dare Paul Nicholls express some personality? I loved it. Him going, his Kevin Keegan impression. Oh, I loved it. We love a bit of it. Go on, Nicholls. We need more of that in the sport. Maddie Plale wrote an article about that today in the Weekender. We need more of this in the sport. And she's absolutely right. In
relation to Barry Connell, was it?
Yeah, Barry Connell saying it's a Mickey Mouse race and people getting... Like Barry was on the Final Furlong in December and he said, John Bond's not a proper Grade 1 horse. And then people just ran with that and was like, oh, how dare he... But look at what he was saying. Look at the context of what he's saying. He was talking about the horses he beats. How many of those horses go on to be subsequent Grade 1 winners? That's what his point was. And that got lost in this, how dare Barry Connell. Barry Connell is a very confident man. That confidence has served him incredibly well in the saddle, incredibly well in life, his professional life, and incredibly well as a trainer. So I love the fact that he's prepared to express those opinions. I think it's great. Nick Luck was making that point on X the other day as well. We need people to be expressing these opinions. It's amazing how people just get triggered by stuff. Don't understand it. So I think it's brilliant for Paul if this Manila Yoga comes out, and whether he wins by a short head or bolts up, and be fantastic. And I'd love to hear him do it again. Really get stuck into those owners again, because, you know, they've taken their horses off him. He has every right to feel aggrieved and annoyed. And who knows, these horses could have excelled for him this season. Okay, Doncaster. I know nothing, as Manuel would say, about Doncaster. I haven't looked at the River Don at all, but there's 3 races that you wanted to talk about very, very briefly with a view to the Cheltenham Festival. The Sol Arena at Fairyhouse, because that has implications for Cheltenham, and you can explain why. Yeah. And the 2 races at Doncaster. Which one do you want to go for first?
I'll start with the opening race, just go in chronological order. Doncaster's 12:20 is a listed fillies juvenile hurdle. As I touched on earlier, I think this is where Man Largo will make a British debut for Nick Ensign JP. I haven't seen her for 315 days. Gordon Elliott and Rob Court are represented by, well, at the entry stage, by Highland Crystal and Mange Tout. I believe it's Highland Crystal who's coming over. She took a while to get the race won at Newbury, but she did in the end. So again, both have got entries in the Triumph. Whether it has an impact on that remains to be seen, but should be an interesting race moving forward. And I think the fact that Mange 2 doesn't run will give us hope that she will take on and reoppose Narciso Haas next week in the Spring Juvenile Hurdle, which we've already touched upon, is often the key trial. As I say, the second race on the card is the Grade 2 River Don Novices Hurdle. In 2023, Stay Away Faye finished second in this race before he won the Albert Bartlett for Paul Nicholls. Again, I say the likes of Carlin Rig, Step Ahead, Country Code are entered in both races on Saturday. So you'll know a bit more at declaration stage. One I'd just keep an eye on at a decent price there, or reasonably priced at present, is the price of Peace for Rebecca Curtis. Ran well first time out in what was a decent race of Foss last, then bolted up at short odds at Chepstow. I just think he looks a nice long-term prospect. Whether he's ready for a race of this nature remains to be seen, but he'd be one I'd be looking to be interested in. And as you say, over at Fairyhouse, I think it's the 138, the Sol Arena Mares Novice Hurdle Grade 3. I did think Bambino Fever might have been given an entry despite a recent course and distance winner not coming that long ago, but it's obviously come a little bit too quickly for her. She wasn't entered. In the past, we have seen both Limini and Lorena win this race en route to winning a dawn run at the Cheltenham Festival. Entries for this race include Carragmurna Spruce, who obviously run against the boys last time and brings probably a decent level of form to the table. Plus Della Nation for William Mullins and Jigginstown. She finished 5th in the Triumph last season, so it's the second season novice. She's 2 from 2 this year. Hasn't really been challenged. It'll be interesting to see how she fits in. She's currently rated 137 by the IHRB, so sets the standard. But arguably the most interesting runner in the field for many would be Old School Outlaw for Gordon Elliott, who since beaten Bambino Fever, obviously that form's been franked, and since that win, she's been purchased by JP McManus. So we'll be carrying the green and gold for the first time on Saturday. And she's fairly prominent in the market for the dawn run herself. So I would imagine, again, there'll be some implications on that market after this race takes place. Yeah,
just bear in mind, William Mullins has won the last 4 runnings of this race. Allegory Devassi ended up missing Cheltenham. Ashrow Diamond missed Cheltenham. Jade de Grugy, couldn't even place. Admittedly, the champion hurdle winner won the race, and Brighter Days Ahead did absolutely destroy State Man twice. But that was sick.
It's actually always a good, as you would expect. It's a good pointer for the Honeysuckle Mares Novice Hurdle back at the Easter Festival.
Yes,
which is Grade 1.
Yeah,
obviously, Honeysuckle was injured and missed. Yeah, as did Honeysuckle herself before it was named after her, obviously. Yeah. She was forced to miss the Cheltenham Festival as a novice. So it just in general, in terms of the spring, it's a race to watch and take note of.
Yeah. Aurora Vega, big disappointment at the Cheltenham Festival, then came roaring back at Fairyhouse. Okay. If you would like to get more of Paul Ferguson, if you would like to get his expert insight with the essential guide for the Cheltenham Festival, the Weatherbys Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide. Good news, you can get £4 off his hard work just because you listen and watch the Final Furlong podcast. Use your code FFCFBG26. We'll put it in the episode description for you, or on the video, I should say. We won't put it in the episode description. You got to watch this to get access to it. But it's there scrolling on the screen. You got to listen to get access to it. It's FFCFBG26. Final Furlong Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide 26. That's your code. Use that at the checkout at weatherbyshop.ie or weatherbyshop.co.uk to get yourself €4 or £4 off, whether it's the print copy, the digital copy, or that bundle. And they're already at Weatherbys giving you a 45% discount if you buy both in the bundle, and now you get an extra £4 off. It's the biggest discount that you can get anywhere, only with the Final Furlong podcast. So use our code FFCFBG26 and get Paul's essential Weatherbys Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide. Do not bet on the Cheltenham Festival without it. You gotta have it. It's absolute gold. FFCFBG26, weatherbyshop.co.uk, weatherbyshop.ie, £4 off. And when you're betting on Cheltenham, when you're betting on the Dublin Racing Festival, Punchestown and the 1xBet Grand National Trial, which is coming up, the Curragh, the Good Friday fixture, the Irish Guineas meeting, which 1xBet will be the official betting partner for, head on over to 1xBet. Click the link in the episode description. It'll take you right to the 1xBet website. There's loads of different customer sign-up offers. They keep changing them, and they keep getting better and better and better. So you can take advantage of all of those. Hopefully there'll be some for Punchestown. Hopefully there'll be some for the Punchestown Festival and for the flat racing as well. Fast withdrawals, new customer sign-up offers. It's all there for you. Terms and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly. 18 plus only. Click the link in the episode description. It'll take you right to the 1xBet website in Ireland. 1xBet knows the crack. Bet with your head, not above it. Paul Ferguson, which is the horse you're most looking forward to seeing this weekend?
Well, I think the obvious one, the clash between Sergino and the New Lion, but possibly in terms of a bet, I think Barlovento in the first at Timeform, Novice Handicap.
Love it. What is the one horse that you have in your anti-post portfolio right now that you are most confident about? And what is the one horse that you're on the fence about backing?
I haven't backed many at all this year. The one I've backed for this, I've backed Narciso Haas. So,
what price you get?
12 to 1, and then 16s after he was beaten.
Nice.
First time out. So, well, needs to go. And I wouldn't be as convinced as the market suggests for next week that he's improved that much more than -2. So hopefully the market's right. If he goes and beats around Leopardstown, I'd be pretty confident he'd beat her over 2-1 at Cheltenham. And obviously proactive, threw his hat into the ring last week, so that looks a bit more competitive than it did maybe a week or so ago, 8 days ago. Sitting on the fence with what in terms of short price favourites, or
is there a horse that you keep looking at and you're very tempted to back but you haven't yet?
I was tempted to back Old Park Star immediately after the race on Saturday, and I didn't expect him to shorten much more, but he has since. So I say at the minute he definitely sets the standard, and I think it'd take, I don't know what could put up a good performance in the Tattersall Island next week to make me think otherwise. And obviously it sounds like El Kairos is going to miss that race and run a maiden hurdle, I've been told, the following day or something. So he's going to go there on the back. He's obviously going to be ridiculously short price. I'd like to see Mighty Park run again. I was impressed with him. I liked him in his point-to-point. He was unlucky when he was beating his point-to-point. But we don't really know what he beat last week. So I actually think to say it's quite nice to see that there's quite a few good novices this side of the IRC this year. It's not just going to be a whitewash. And certainly I think Old Park Star sets the standard at this stage. I don't think we've seen a better novice hurdler.
This could be a great Cheltenham for Britain. It's shaping up that way. Doesn't always work that way, but it's shaping up that way right now. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of very, very strong British contenders, and then there's ones we're not even really talking about yet that are going to be very interesting for the handicaps. It's a huge Cheltenham for the UK this time around. I think Old Park Star at 9-4. There's some either scumbag patent or a scumbag lucky 15 that I want to do before the Dublin Racing Festival, because Old Park Star could shorten based on what happens at the Tattersall's race.
You think?
Yeah. If that ends up being a boil over, Say Talk to
it's possible.
Say Talk to Talk falls.
He needs to jump better. It wasn't just last time when he fell. He didn't jump great the time before.
No, he didn't. I think he's a really nice horse. I like the way he made up the ground so quickly, but there's something about him.
That was what I liked about El Kairos over Christmas, but he's like to be 5-1 on the back of one run over hurdle when it's a fall is pretty unheard of. And I don't think I'd be keen to see him and see if he can put in a polished display. No doubt he's talented and he's got bags and bags of talent. But I actually wrote in Jumpers Follow this year. I didn't know whether he had a kink in him because it wasn't just the Punchestown run where he wavered off a straight line in bumpers. He was all over the place at Newbury when he won on debut, and then he didn't look the most controllable up the hill in the champion bumper. So Leopardstown's probably suited him at Christmas until he fell because he had an inside rail with him all the way. But I don't know where I haven't even looked at the Irish fixture list, to be honest. Possibly should have done that for next Monday. I don't know where the racing will be, but that will be something I'd bear in mind with him in future. He seems to want to look to his left, so I'd always want to see him on a track where there was an inside rail on that left-hand side. And I'm not doubting his ability or anything, but it was something I had in mind pre-season as well. So see what he does next week.
The esteemed Lydia Hislop has made that point as well. There might be more of a kink to this horse than people thought. Yeah, they didn't really go into I did listen to them talking about that on road to Cheltenham last week, and he didn't really elaborate on his bumper form. But it was, if you go back, I say he was quite wayward at Newbury when he won first time, and then I think a lot of people just look at the race that he seemingly threw away at the Punchestown Festival, but he didn't look the easiest conveyance at the Cheltenham Festival either. And I think probably the easy way out was to blame David Maxwell, but I'm not sure the horse it was 100% straightforward. I possibly could have been reading too much into that, but that was just what I saw when I was looking ahead to the season. Well, to be fair, on the limited data we have, when you're looking at a 5-1 shot for the Supreme Novice Hurdle who fell on his hurdling debut, you have to be critical. You have to be looking at these races with.
But the way that camera angle, the way he picked up at Christmas, it was hard not to be impressed with the turn of foot he showed. It was like,
I was getting ready to go for dinner with my cousins, and he was the first leg of some stupid bet, which by the way came off afterwards. And as he comes last, I'm like, yeah, good thing, Jack Kennedy.
And to be fair, he didn't do much wrong, but again, I don't know whether he
the landing gear didn't come out.
I just think it was unlucky, but actually quite liked. I know we're digressing slightly here, sorry, but I was pretty impressed with Ballyfaddy, who won the opening maiden hurdle, I think, wasn't it?
With this, just before we go, because you spend a lot of time talking to the trainers and talking to owners beforehand. You talk to a lot of the people who source, like Tom Malone, and people like that who are sourcing horses. So you before the season begins, you've already got a very good idea as to what connections think of their horses. And I think at the very start of the season, Willie Mullins would have been, or at least the people connected to Willie Mullins would have been pretty confident that there's going to be some very nice prospects there. And as things stand, and this is the 21st of January we're recording, there's nothing from the Willie Mullins yard that you would be massively excited about for the novice hurdling prospects. And the reason I mentioned this on the back of you talking about Ballyfad is that I don't think many people would have been talking about Gordon having an enormous amount of exciting prospects. But actually, Gordon seemingly has a lot of exciting firepower. And as we build up to the DRF, we're still not sure where the Willie Mullins firepower is. No,
it's a good point. I personally wasn't too blown away by Sober and the Moscow Flyer. It was a funny race, and he would need to show a lot more. The Reverend, likewise, I think both of them would need to step forward massively. As for Gordon, Ballyfad actually it didn't really blow me away in bumpers. It wasn't one I was going into his maiden hurdle thinking I was expecting big things from, but I thought he was really good the way he galloped and jumped, and I think probably going up in trip. It'd be interesting to see where he run next week. I assume he goes to Leopardstown next week, where he's got the option 2 miles or 2 mile 6. I can't imagine he'll ask him to step up to 2 mile 6 at this stage, but it wouldn't be a surprise if he ran well in the 2 mile race, and then we saw him stepping up for the Bear and Bingo. So I would imagine that Jack would be keen to keep the two of them apart. I would have thought at this stage he'd probably look his best two novices, and I think you've got to throw Skylight Hustle in there. I think he's another one who could end up possibly running over 2 miles next weekend, and then stepping up to 2 mile 5 at Cheltenham.
Interesting. It's very, very interesting. Just still kind of expecting that William Mullins horse to emerge, and beyond the realms of possibility that does happen.
I was disappointed with Dr. Manili. He still couldn't even get the job done after he come down. So I know he's entered at the DRF, but it looks like he's going to go. He's entered the maiden at the weekend and also on Monday. Is it Punchestown on Monday? Is it next Monday?
Well, the good news is that Gavin Lynch has already told us that that's the Albert Bartlett horse, and I know he met the owner afterwards. The owner was like, "You shouldn't be telling people that he's a speed horse." Well, he's not. So turns out Gavin was right.
I wrote in the book, I thought he looked a stayer when he won his bumper, and people were telling me that he was a speed horse throughout the season, but. Well, I can't imagine that Willie would run him in the 2 mile 6 race to Nathaniel Lacey. I think he'll just go and win a maiden hurdle somewhere if possible. But again,
he's already won. He's already won, hasn't he? Didn't he win?
Dr. Dominia.
Didn't he win?
No, he was beaten in the race that.
Sorry, the race to the Kairos. Yeah, and that was the thing that he couldn't even get past. Win, See, the thing that I think is somewhat confusing about all of this is that. Okay, Willie Mullins is having winners now, and he's having a lot of them. But doesn't something just feel off? Like some of them just aren't hitting the line in the way that you would think they would, and some of those horses over Christmas that were beaten, like even Majborough. Did you actually run your race? I don't know. And it's really odd because you hear things, but hearing things does not allow you to go on a podcast and say, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to have two sources that you can independently verify a story and then say, you don't just go, well, I've heard that, blah, blah, blah. You don't do that. But something does just feel off.
Yeah, I think that's why next week will be Telemona, obviously, with quite a lot. So plenty to look forward to.
Very much so. Punchestown and Naas is where Dr. Dominil has entered. On Sunday for a maiden hurdle over 2 mile 2. Monday over 2 mile 3. And he still has the entry. He won't go for the Grade 1 over 2 mile 6. That was just in there on the assumption that he would win at Christmas, I would imagine. But,
I would have thought so.
Yeah, potato race. 20-1. Could be interesting. Okay, that's it. Paul Ferguson will be back with us for another Final Furlong Podcast special and another one after that, in fact, to build up to the Cheltenham Festival and to celebrate the release of the Weatherbys Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide. We're looking forward to those shows. Paul, where are you racing this weekend?
I'm not actually. I'm actually going to stay at home and watch it on TV because I've been doing a lot of travelling this week. I was at Haydock, Aston Villa on Sunday to watch Everton, back Sunday night, and down to the office in Northamptonshire for a couple of days, and I just got back late last night. So I thought, I'm gonna stay at home on Saturday and watch. I don't need to be there, so I'm going to watch Trials Day from the comfort of my living room.
That's my plan. That's my plan, Paul Ferguson. Kick back and watch Trials Day at Cheltenham on good old racing TV. All right, from Paul Ferguson and from me, Emmet Kennedy, we're back with the preview of Trials Day on Thursday. So make sure you smash a like on this episode if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Tell all your friends about the Final Furlong Podcast and comment below on what Paul's had to say and what your opinions are as well. If you agree with them, fantastic. If you disagree with them, that's okay too. And me, for that matter. Comment below. We'd love to hear from you, as we always do. And of course, we interact with you as well. From Paul Ferguson and from me, Emmet Kennedy, we'll talk to you again very, very soon on the Final Furlong Podcast. Look after yourself and each other. God bless.
Thanks for spending some time with us on the Final Furlong Podcast. We're independent media, so if you like what we do, hit like, share, and subscribe. It's free, it's quick, and it genuinely helps. And if you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more where that came from. Don't miss out. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major platforms, and join us on the gravy train. The Final Furlong Podcast. Independent, unfiltered, and powered by you.